Let's take a look at divs and the properties of positioning. In particular, we're interested in the absolute positioning to start with. Here's a div, and I'm just going to give it a class. And it's going to be a solid color. Let me define this class in the style sheet. And let's preview this div. Nothing's there. Why? Nothing's there because divs need either structure from width and height or just a piece of content. Now we can see the div because there's some content inside. I don't want any content. Let me give it structure by giving this div a height. Height of 50 pixels, refresh, and there's a div. Let me create another div. Instead of calling this one solid color, I'll call it my nav bar. Now let me attach this name to my solid div, just now nav bar div. And now let's look at the page. No change because all we did was switch the name for the class. I'll create a div right below this, and let's pretend this is going to be the full page. We created this before where we had a class called outer, and within there is the div that will be the page itself. Let me give it a class equal to page. And I'm going to reuse the styles from before. Outer, text align center. Page will have a margin from the top, 10 pixels, a background color of white, max width of 1200 pixels, width 100%. So this way we see the page without putting content inside of it. And I'm just giving it a generic height of 99 viewport height. And the display type of this class is inline block. While I'm here, I'm going to define the background of the page. That's going to be in the body tag. And the background color. Background color is going to be black. The page background color is white. Now let's take a look at the page. All right, we're starting to see our element. This is that top div that is outside of our current structure. Outside of it, so it's take 5, so it comes before, and there's some spacing happening. Right here, some spacing, and here is some spacing. This spacing I defined right here, margin top. If margin top was 0, and saving it, when I hit refresh, that goes away. But what about this spacing? This spacing is due to the body tag. All pages have some spacing around it. Get rid of it, just set the margin down to 0 if you want, padding down to 0 too. And I didn't write in pixels because margin 0, padding 0. Shortcut means no margin, no padding. Leave off the px in this case. All right, we got our page going. Now I want this nav bar to be on the inside of the page. So the next step would be to just move this nav bar on the inside. Cutting it from there, I'll put it within the page. Saving it. Now the nav bar area is on the inside of this page, and this page can have content. What if, though, we have a different scenario where we want a big image, hero image, to push down on this page? I'll add an image right above all this. Image. Source is equal to some image. Alt tag will be just the hero image. And close this image tag. From my image directory, I'm going to select, let's say this one. I'm going to rename it to just tree. That's easier to remember. I'm going to go to the image directory and pull the tree.jpg out from there and assign it to this image tag, saving it. That's a big image, and now our page begins. Let me scale back this image a little bit. I'll make a class called hero. And its width will be 50% of the page size. I'll assign that class to this image. Saving it. All right. Page grows, the image will grow, but then it could also slip on that side. So this isn't a good scenario. I need a better structure for putting image up there on top. I'm going to make a div right up here within the page. I'm going to delete this image tag from there. And I'm going to make a section right below the nav bar. And this is a new div that will contain the hero image. /div. I'm going to remove the class from hero. And let's take a look at the page. Well, this image stretched way beyond its bounds. Why? Because there's nothing stopping it. We have to let the image know to be 100% or 50% of its bounding container. Let me put hero class back. And this time I'm going to set the hero class to 100%. Since it's within this page, from page to page, the first element's nav bar, followed by the next element, which is this hero image. Save and refresh. This image now knows to live within the page, and then new content can form underneath it. There's a nav bar on top, followed by this hero image. What if you want the navigation bar to float on top of this image? That's where absolute positioning comes in. I'm going to set the opacity from the nav bar down to 50%. Opacity, 0.5 is 50%. So it's a little faded because it's fading out to the white background. I want this to be on top of this image. Get this to float on top of this image. I'm going to the nav bar and I'm going to write in its class position absolute. I'm going to set the width of this div to 100%. Since there's no other position set within all the CSSs, this nav bar is going to stretch totally across the page, something we don't want. Just like that, destroying our layout. We'll fix it with one property definition. Go to navbar's parent container. What's the parent container? If this is the navbar, it's within this page. That's the immediate parent of this navbar, the page. And go there in the class definition and assigns its position to relative, meaning, hey, just hang out wherever you are. However the other elements push you around, just stay put. That's relative. By adding position relative to the page, which is the parent of the nav bar, now we'll be able to float this nav bar on top of the image, which it's doing, but this nav bar is not going to stretch to 100% of the page. It's going to recognize the fact that it's within the page class. There it is. So we're able to float this nav bar now over our image. And then we can have more content underneath it.